What's up YouTube, Mr. Llama here, and today I want to discuss the character changes from Lord of Destruction to Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now there's been multiple iterations as we went through and D2R came out, and then they patched and they did the 2.4 PTR, and then they made adjustments further, and then they added Mosaic and all sorts of other things that have happened. There's also all the other changes in the game. I have another video for that, so if you want to see that video, I'll put it in the link down below in the description, maybe the pinned comment, whatever. But for the character changes, there's actually a decent amount, and I'll link the whole show of kind of the main changes that have existed, but I want to just break it down and give you guys the main ideas. So, starting out with the Assassin. Martial Arts Assassin is now the strongest character in the game, which is crazy, and if I would have said that, you know, if you would have told me that 4 years ago, whatever, before D2R launched, I would have been like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. But they really went, and this is due to the one thing, which is Mosaic, which is absolutely ridiculous. I will go to it right here. This is my Mosaic Assassin. I've made multiple, of course. I made one, took her to 99, but this is the one that I took a little bit further, whatever. I think I showed it in the last video as well, but it's just like super insane and ridiculous and everything. So basically she just goes, builds up these charges, and then just explodes absolutely everything that she touches. The beautiful things are she can deal crazy damage in lightning, in cold, in fire, physical. She has amazing elemental damage for all the different kinds of elements there. She has literally just like broken levels of leech from all of this, thanks to Cobra Strike. It's just completely busted. So that is the first really big character shift, and it came from this, but essentially martial arts are god tier from that. Additionally, they also went into the martial arts skills, and they added more attack rating to all of the martial arts skills. So let me actually move myself out of the way here. So you can see that now there is the attack rating plus 175%, attack rating plus 405%. You know, I don't have this maxed because you don't want to max Fist of Fire for other reasons, but this is where, you know, you have just these big AR boost, and they added all those. And then also finishers always hit now. So you're going to have, you know, your Dragon Talon and your Dragon Claw and stuff. These always hit. And with this always hitting with 6 kicks, you just go and it always hits, and you burst out all of these. And with Mosaic, it's broken, right? So I've got multiple videos on Mosaic, how good it is, why I think it's too good and needs to be fixed. But this is kind of the main piece they changed for the Assassin. The other piece they changed, they actually nerfed Death Sentry a little bit. They removed the synergy from many of the skills. So before, and it was just kind of nerfed for like the playthrough, but essentially Lightning Sentry and all of these had Death Sentry as a synergy in LOD, and they just removed that. So now when you're playing through the game, you don't just want to like fully max Lightning Sentry and Death Sentry, because you're not actually getting any of that synergy to your Lightning Sentry right there. So you're going to be like a little bit less on Death Sentry, and then you'll just kind of do more of it later on as you go. But that was kind of just a main change there. A change I actually do like that they made is they improved blades. I wish they would improve it even more. But they improved the cooldown. So the cooldown is a lot less for Blade Sentinel now. And they improved the damage and gave them the synergies here, which are 10% damage per level between each of these blades. So that was a nice boost to blades overall. I still think the terrible casting delay of going every time, whenever you get hit, you have to go through the same waiting the frames to shoot. It's pretty annoying. And not having WASD, I think, also makes this just a worse skill. Like, honestly, Blade Fury and WASD to be moving and shooting as you're running would be like an awesome use case for WASD, but obviously that's like probably way too advanced and never happening. But regardless, like I said, they did boost those. Otherwise, they improved the fire skills a little bit. Fire trap damage was increased. And then additionally, next hit delay got changed in the game. So it no longer messes with like too many fire traps. So before, essentially, if you would place down 5 Wake of Fires or something, you wouldn't really get the damage of 5 Wake of Fire. And the reason is because what's called next hit delay. So there's a whole list of skills that have next hit delay: Tornado, Wake of Fire, etc. And basically they're skills where the skill is like traveling through an enemy, and they didn't want it to just keep hitting on every single frame. So they put a delay in on it where it wouldn't have that. But the problem was that delay would exist as well for all of the other traps that you would lay. So literally, or all of the next hit delay skills, right? So if I hit with the Wake of Fire with one of my traps, then the other one hits at the same time or slightly later, this one's not doing damage now because this one already put it into next hit delay. And it was just this whole really like annoying thing that just kind of sucked a little bit. So they fixed that. They made it, they removed next hit delay from kind of a global sense and made it localized to each individual trap, each individual tornado, each individual skill of each kind. And so now they don't have that issue anymore, which allows more fire traps to do more damage and just more damage overall to exist from skills that do next hit delay. So that was a big change there. They improved Venom's like cooldown time, or the duration, I mean. I think the duration was like 30 or 40 seconds at level 1, and they just boosted it up to be 120 on base. So that was nice. I'm not sure if they changed really any of the other pieces there. I don't believe so. That's kind of the main changes for the Assassin. Again, if I miss anything, post in the comments below, but this is really kind of the main thing. So Martial Arts Assassin is now the strongest assassin in the game, or the strongest character in the game. Fire Traps got a little bit better. Lightning Trap with the Death Sentry got a little worse on the playthrough, but in the endgame it's still pretty similar. And then Blades improved, but still aren't good enough to like really play that much. And yeah. The last thing I would say with the lightning traps is they did make changes where plus to lightning % damage and minus to enemy light res from stuff like griffins and just any of the items, Crescent Moon and those, do affect those traps now. And so that's a big boost right there to lightning damage actually for the traps. Additionally, the trap bug is gone. I don't know if a lot of people know about this bug, but essentially when you would place down traps in an area, it would count those towards your like your boss monster, unique monster count in the area. So you would run into way fewer of the bosses or uniques that you wanted to run into to magic find. So it kind of made the character a really bad magic farming character. But they fixed that bug. So that's no longer the thing. And then your lightning damage is now boosted a lot actually, because you can run like Griffins and Crescent Moon and get all of the benefit of both of those, which is really beneficial. So that is the Assassin. Moving on to the Druid. The Druid had a few nice changes overall. And let me pull up a Druid right here. This one will work. I think this is actually my Arctic Blast Druid, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it was. If I put the Enigma on and whatever. So I made an Arctic Blast Druid. They improved Arctic Blast and Inferno. Are they good? No, they're still not good. But you can play with them and mess around a little bit. I played through with an Arctic Blast Druid and kind of made a late game character with it, and it actually worked out okay. But the main pieces of this character. First off, they improved fire skill damage over here as well. Additionally, there are some new rune words and things that kind of do help with fire damage, which can be really nice. They removed global casting. So initially, Fissure has a cooldown, but it would share a global cooldown with Molten Boulder, with Volcano, with Armageddon, right? Like all of these would have their global cooldowns, and so you couldn't cast them in sync. If I cast a Fissure, I couldn't immediately cast a Molten Boulder right after, right? I'd have to wait until the global cooldown was over. They got rid of that. So now cooldowns are localized to each of the skills, which means you can cast a Volcano, then cast a Fissure, then cast a Molten Boulder, then cast a Firestorm, all in succession as fast as you can cast them. And so you can just get out way more damage. So that helped out many builds overall, but especially I feel like Fire Druid got a lot of benefit from there. They just increased the fire damage overall. And then they removed the requirement of having Hurricane for Armageddon, which was really nice because, again, who wanted to go all the way down to Armageddon and then also have to work all the way through the wind tree to go over to Armageddon? It was just like really annoying. So they removed that requirement, and to go with it, they buffed Armageddon a lot. So Armageddon's actually pretty sweet now. It drops like meteors pretty well. They do decent damage. Before it was like, pew, splat, pew, splat, right? It was like the weakest thing ever. You'd get like one meteor every 2 seconds or something that dropped down. And now it actually rains down decently well. I like the skill. I think it's a fun skill to have. I think it actually is meaningful. You can see the damage from it. It's nice. They did a good job with that one. Shape-shifting, they tried to boost like Werewolf and Werebear some. Honestly, they didn't do enough with it. I don't feel like there's really much change that happened at all. You've got your like Poison Creeper synergy here with Rabies. I can't remember if that was there before. I don't believe it was. But either way, Rabies still falls off pretty hard. And then just your like Werebear and Werewolf also fall off. They did add another Runeward Helm that was supposed to kind of help them out as well. But additionally, it's still just like not great. So I don't feel like they boosted these enough. Again, in the description, we'll have like the full link of it, but nothing's really changed here. You still just kind of have your Fury Wolf if you want, and that's about it. And Shockwave was cool at one point when it had the bugged damage that actually existed, but they fixed the bug, and so now you don't really get damage from it, so it's not that good anymore, except to just kind of mass stun. So not too much to talk about there, but plenty to talk about on the summon tree. Summons are absolutely dope now. The first thing is you actually can summon multiple summons at the same time. So this was a huge issue in, Diablo 2 LOD, was you only got one summon out. You had your bear, or you had your whoops, or you had your, whatever, right? Like you just had one of these guys, and it really sucked. Now you can have all of them out, so you get the zoo, and it's better. Are they brokenly good? No, but I feel like it's a decent summoner. Necro Summon is still a little stronger because you get Corpse Explosion and stuff, but it's still a decent grouping to have, so I do like that. Ravens are also really good DPS in the summon. That's kind of your like best DPS now. Is the Ravens. So you kind of have the rest of the summons to tank and do some stuff, but the Ravens just go in and they just like target fire. Additionally, you can target like on one monster, and then all the Ravens, whenever you summon a Raven on a monster, all the Ravens swarm over and attack that one monster and stuff. So you can do some target attacking with it, which is really nice. They improved the other summons there, just kind of overall, though they did make the Spirit Wolf kind of worse because they gave it cold damage instead of a physical damage that it used to have. The idea was they wanted to change it up, and I supported it at the time. I thought it was a good idea, but seeing it in practice, basically by making it all cold damage, you don't get any of the boosts. So any of the items that you're using, if you're using Beast or if you're using, the Heart of the Wolverine or whatever it is, you don't get that benefit for these wolves anymore. Their damage just like doesn't exist in the later stages. So that kind of sucked. It ended up being a negative when they were trying something. And again, I didn't think about it at the time, but looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't bad. That was bad. And then for creepers, Poison Creeper is now like the most brokenly strong thing in the first act, basically. So you can take it through Act 1 and Act 2 of normal, and maybe some of Act 3, and it will just murder everything. On Players 8 even. You just literally run, and it'll just follow behind, and everything it touches dies. But then it starts to fall off pretty hard, and then it becomes pretty irrelevant. I did take just a Poison Creeper build all the way through normal in like maybe 3.5 hours or something like that, which was fine. But after that, it became, pretty completely worthless. It just died and it didn't do a lot. So Poison Creeper, unfortunately, doesn't do much still, except for the very early game. And then the other vines are still pretty worthless. So they need to touch up the vines and figure something for that. But otherwise, I would say the Druid is still pretty similar. Again, next hit delay did help like Tornado and somewhat, but you still kind of have your main builds, right? You just have your main stuff of Wind Druid, Fire Druid that's improved now. Nothing really too much changed with your Shapeshifters, and your Summoner is really the guy who got the big shifts for the Druid. Moving beyond that, let's go to the Barbarian, who actually had some pretty significant changes. I feel like Barbarian is one of the characters that they beefed up a lot in a lot of various ways. So the first thing they did is they just named this Blade Mastery. So daggers are now added into this as well. They improved masteries overall, giving just more AR, more... I think it's more attack rating bonus for all of the different masteries right there. They improved throwing mastery. Here, throwing actually became a pretty viable build with this because they have the chance to pierce and the chance to not consume quantity and replenish quantity on critical strike. So with these three things being added to throwing mastery, throwing actually works, and when you get to a high level throw barb, you don't run out of quantity. You can just keep throwing, you'll replenish all of your stuff because you're going to be critting enough and you're going to have the high enough chance to not consume. Plus you get the pierce chance, which is really nice. So it was a nice boost overall. This is kind of, I don't want to say a new build exactly, but this build definitely has improved in D2R overall. Other changes, not really anything here. If we go to Warcries, Warcry itself is now much better. It was already, you know, kind of the best way to level up and stuff for the Barbarian, but they improved it and made it quite nice because they lowered the mana cost for it and increased the damage some. So just kind of made it more on par, because before it was absolutely brutal. You'd use it a couple times and deal like no damage and all your mana would be gone. Now you can sustain a little better. Plus being able to get like 2 spirits early, you can Warcry a lot more with it. And it's actually pretty nice. I mean, it feels pretty good. So that was a nice boost right there. Find item received a find potion synergy of 1% chance per level, which is just absolutely broken. So, I mean, like, just ridiculous that you max find potion now and you get 20% more chance on your find item right here, which is crazy and was super busted, I would say, for the Barbarian, and still kind of is for like Trav runs and stuff. But with the addition of Terror Zones, I think that lowered it some, because now you can kind of farm in Terror Zones a little bit better with other characters. So this guy is still the best like Trav runner and stuff, but overall I feel like you want characters that can run through Terror Zones a little bit easier than the Barbarian. So it's like, it was more broken at the start, and I think it's become less broken because of that in the end. In the combat section, I'd say the biggest change was leap attack now has an AoE. So when you leap and land, there's actually an AoE of damage that'll pulse out, and it's pretty sweet for level like 18 to, you know, 30 or whatever on that way to getting to Warcry, and maybe all the way up to honestly around like 50 you can go with it. But once you get out of Nightmare, or towards the end of Nightmare, it really just starts to fall off. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing, is it's a flat damage that has no basis on your weapon that you're using whatsoever. So all your weapon does is it has the main hit, but beyond that, the leap attack damage is just the flat damage of where you land and the level of skill you have in leap attack, plus from leap as well. So leap attack Barbarian, very nice for leveling in that mid section. Otherwise, it's kind of worthless, which is unfortunate. Whirlwind actually got some nice boost. You can see it doesn't have the minus 50% or whatever damage at the start. So now it's actually 30% damage, which is really nice. So this was a big change that they did to help Whirlwind out for the playthrough. And I did a guided playthrough of Whirlwind in Lord of Destruction. And then I did a guided playthrough of Whirlwind in Diablo 2 Resurrected. And oh my God, it was so much more fun in Diablo 2 Resurrected because of, I would honestly say, this change, being able to actually do damage. Additionally, it no longer infinitely tracks. So before, you know, you could like whirlwind on something and you just like keep whirlwinding at it. And if it was moving away, you couldn't stop. You just had to keep going. Now it's just to a point of your click. So wherever, if I click right here, this is where my guy whirlwinds to. That's where he whirlwinds to. So you can make tiny little triangles and do little things. And it's much nicer for just that sort of piece overall. So that was a big change there. And whirlwind, there was one more thing. People complained about it at the higher levels. They said they didn't like how it functioned with whirlwind. Maybe it was just they lowered the scaling of whirlwind, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I believe it was something along those lines. But overall, I think whirlwind at the end is pretty similar to where it was, and it is much better on the playthrough. So I'm very happy with the changes they made there. Other things on it, they added for Frenzy, they added increased stamina as a synergy, which is 0.4 seconds per level. So it's a way to increase the duration of your Frenzy in between fighting monsters. This fell flat to me overall because it's just too many things that you need to invest in. You need to invest in Frenzy, Double Swing, Taunt. You need to invest in battle orders, you know, whatever else you're going in your war cry shouts. So you're going to have your points, obviously, in your natural res and all your increased speed and your mastery. And then you're supposed to have points for increased stamina as well. No. So kind of fell flat right there. That got just kind of whatever. And then lastly, they changed Berserk over to battle orders. I want to say it was like shout before or something like that. For its synergy. It was a different, I think it was shout. So they made it battle orders now on Berserk, which is just nicer overall because you're going to, you know, you want to invest the points into battle orders anyways. So that adds a little bit more of the damage right there. And that really kind of covers the Barbarian. So overall, Warcry improved. Find item improved. Grim Ward they did change, but it's still honestly pretty unusable. It has a slow and stuff to it, but the fact that Grim Ward still makes monsters flee, I think is the biggest issue. If it taunted them and brought them in, I think it would be a complete fix to the skill and actually possibly worthwhile. They changed up a little bit over here. Throw became an actual build that you can use. So that was nice. And then leap attack was something for the middle. So that is the Barbarian and the main changes overall to know for LOD to D2R on the Barbarian. Now we can move on to the Amazon. Amazon has gotten some decent changes as well. Honestly, I feel like they did a great job with most of these characters. I think there's still more to do, but I think they did decent overall. So starting in the bow section, first they added guided arrow and multi-shot as synergies down this main line right here to improve the physical damage of all these and just kind of allow for more to be done with that. So that was a nice increase there. They lowered the cooldown on Immolation Arrow, so it's actually not bad. It has a 0.6 second cooldown, which is a little bit awkward. You can essentially shoot, if you have decent attack speed, like one Immolation Arrow, one exploding, one Immolation, one exploding, and you can alternate back and forth. Kind of awkward though, so I don't know if I love the cooldown exactly on it there, but it is something that they changed. Let's see. Lowered mana cost and increased damage on all of the elemental arrows overall. So I believe Cold Arrow got lowered. I know Freezing Arrow got lowered on its mana cost as well. And just a little bit of damage buff to these guys additionally. So nothing too crazy, but it does make the elemental bosons a little bit more fun. You can run, you know, just like a pure cold, a pure fire, or you can run a cold and fire Amazon. And honestly, all three of those are pretty decent, as well as, of course, just your classic physical. So that was kind of the main stuff there. They did add some like attack rating and stuff as well to Strafe. So that was a nice little boost there to kind of make Strafe a little bit improved. But you still have all your bosons. They're just a little bit better now. On the passive tree, the Valkyrie went from a 6-second cooldown to a 0.6-second cooldown. So before, you'd have to wait 6 seconds to recast her. And if she got killed really quickly, well, you were screwed. But now you can keep casting her very quickly, which is just kind of a nice additional boost. So that was nice. They also fixed dodge, avoid, and evade. So you no longer get caught just like stuck evading or trying to avoid and die from that. Now it does not do that anymore. So that was a bug that existed and it no longer does. So that's really nice. These are now really solid again, which is super great. Decoy is currently bugged. It may have been bugged in LOD 2. I can't remember. But it is bugged where it either, I don't think it actually is. It either has 1 life or it has infinite life, essentially. And cannot die until its cooldown is over, basically. So that is something that does exist in the game. It's kind of weird, and that's dealing with like an overflow error or whatever. So they have to fix that and look at that. Yeah, not too much else here, but that fix was really nice. And then the big stuff was in the Javelin tree. So for lightning, they actually did a little bit of a lightning nerf. They removed Lightning Fury from Charge Strike as a synergy and from Power Strike. I believe it was on both. I know it was at least on Charge Strike. Oh, and Lightning Strike. So Lightning Fury used to be a synergy for those. It no longer is. So now on again your playthrough where you're, you know, okay, I'm maxing Lightning Fury. I don't get the synergy boost over to Charge Strike, right? They increase the other percent damage you gain from the other synergies. So still increasing those increases that. And I think their idea was overall to try and like separate it a little more. Like, okay, maybe you're going to play, you know, a Charge Strike Spears on, and so you're not going to get Lightning Fury. So before you would still have to put points in it. Now you don't need to. I don't think it really ended up doing anything like that. It just made the playthrough a little bit slower for the character. Otherwise, you still just end up maxing Lightning Fury and Charge Strike because they're still just the best skills overall. So lightning just kind of changed in that way. The poison jab is actually decent now, which I love. So poison jab you can actually play through the game with first off, but additionally, endgame plague javelin is not horrible. Like I made a build guide on it a while ago. Where I went and was running through cows and stuff on P8. And it wasn't as fast as like Lightning Fury, obviously, which is the fastest skill. But it was still decent and it was still killing for Plague Javelin. So they increased it to have higher damage at higher levels for Poison Javelin. And for Plague Jab, they made it higher damage. They reduced the delay of throwing it from 4 seconds to 1 second, which was really nice. And it's just a better skill now overall. So just the damage has been really great there. And lastly, they tried to make Fens on a thing. I did a playthrough of it through the game. It wasn't that great. It still didn't feel super fun. So they tried. They made Impale always hit, plus have a slow, plus be uninterruptible. But the chance of losing durability is pretty rough on it. I guess your best way of doing it is with like a Breath of the Dying Warpike or something. So it's just indestructible. And whatever, but it's still a pretty slow attack overall. But it can be nice, I suppose, for like Ubers and things. Fend has a higher attack speed. And then overall, there's just some like slight improvements to the Spears on. But I don't think it's enough to like really make the character super usable. So this one hasn't really had much success, I would say. But the Amazon did get some nice changes, at least overall. Diving into the Necromancer. Let me find a Necro really fast. Sure, this guy will work. They made not a ton of changes. So really the big thing, they made some slight buffs to the bone skills right there. They improved like weaken a little bit and stuff, where it actually like starts to scale up with more points in it and things. Yeah, they didn't really do a lot to the Necromancer. Honestly, I think they thought Necromancer was in a pretty sweet spot. So that's kind of it. They buffed these. I think they made the synergies go up to 8%. I think it was like 6% or 4% before. So they increased that a little bit, which did make it pretty strong in PvP. But it's still a little slow on the playthrough. And overall, you know, is a little weak in that capacity. But very strong PvP. Endgame, not having enough AoE, I think, still is what hurts the character for Bone. But otherwise, Summon Necro, they barely touch. They tried to increase Skeletal Mages to make them better. They still completely suck and are unusable. So nothing really to improve there. Poison Necro, I don't think they touched at all, really. And then Bone, just slight buffs. And, you know, they dabbled in the Curse of Weaken and maybe one other. I'm not even sure if they did one other. So nothing really changed on the Necromancer besides a little bit better PvP of Necro. Now, oops. I guess we can also just dive over to the Sorceress, because she also, these last three characters really didn't get a lot. Sorceress also had very few changes. There is now a static field synergy to Nova. So Nova did improve and now is one of the better characters in the endgame. One of the fastest leveling characters is just having a Nova Sorceress with your maxed out static field and everything and maxed lightning mastery. And you can just run with a self-wielding infinity and be pretty strong. So that was improved. They gave Blaze faster run walk, which is actually really fun, and I actually really love it. I've done a couple like normal Blaze playthroughs and things, and you can get moving. Like I beat normal in under 2 hours with Blaze fire source, only really using Blaze for damage. So pretty fun. Not really a super usable end game thing, but it's something that they did. And then they removed the casting delay on Hydras, but then they put a max of 6 Hydras out there. I still think Hydra needs to have a little bit more to really do enough, but it is something that can be, have a little bit more of like, you can use it with Frozen Orb or Blizzard or whatever, and it can be okay on the side. That was the main changes I feel like that really got made. I'm not sure they touched Cold really much at all. So yeah, Sorceress pretty untouched overall. Just a couple minor changes right there, but nothing that really changed the Sorceress up and too many of her builds. And then of course, lastly, we have the Paladin. Sure, we'll go this one. Which had Holy Fire, and all of the holies got a slight boost. And so now they're a little bit better. They have better hit damage and better AoE. And then I believe their proc of damage deals more close by and then less the further you go away. And then they made Holy Bolt actually deal damage to demons and undead. And it also pierces and it deals more damage now. So this is actually one of the fastest ways to level in the very early times. Of course, when you get to like Act 2 and 3, there's not a lot of demons and undead, so it doesn't work very well there. But in the other ways, or if you're in a party, it's pretty sweet. Like the damage is actually pretty good early on. And then of course, going with Fist of Heavens, you get that additional boost to damage as well. Now they did remove the Blessed Hammer synergy to Holy Bolt though, so it does make it a little bit worse for Hammerdins when they're in like the wave 2 of Act 5, right? Doing Bale's minions. They can't just use Holy Bolt really as much anymore to, you know, a single point in Holy Bolt and then having the Blessed Hammer synergy. You could clean up pretty easily on that wave. Now it's not as easy in that way. So that was a small difficulty with that part. But I feel like that was pretty much as well the changes for this character. Otherwise, I think everything kind of stayed the same. So Paladin, Sorceress, and Necro didn't really get that many changes, but we did see a decent amount on the Assassin, on the Druid, on the Barbarian, and on the Amazon, and it really did make some more builds viable. I think they did a pretty good job. Again, I do have changes I wish that they would make to more skills to, you know, bring a few more skills into play and just make a few more things better. But Yeah. So that is kind of the overall theme, I would say, and changes and what's happened with each of them. I'm sure there's some specifics that I missed or didn't cover. Some of them were intentional because I felt like they were really just completely pointless changes, that they changed this synergy to that. And, you know, a couple of them, it's like now instead of 3% synergy, it's 4% synergy. And it's like, all right, sure. But that didn't like change the build, change anything in a meaningful way that it was enough to address. So I tried to address all of the important pieces. Like I said, if I missed anything, please post it down below. I would love to hear in the comments. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, everybody.